Then for the back half of the episode, we get the sort of conclusion of the Saul plot in the present day, the Gene stuff with the whole scheme, and it does continue seeing him break back into the guy's house after the guy's passed out drunk. And this is once again an example of this show making a scene so tense with so much riding on it, where in theory you wouldn't expect it to be. In some ways it's a very simple scene, but there's just something about the way it all plays out in a natural way, and some of the small details and the direction which makes it actually really tense. The fact that there's moments of humour at times to what goes on, it that does sort of add a little bit of tension as well, really. But we sort of see in some ways, in many ways, Saul go too far a lot of times during this episode, and just bits where he's like just going above and beyond stuff he really doesn't have to do. He could just do like the identity stealing stuff and get out of there sort of thing. But no, we actually see him like reveling in the whole process, him sort of taking over the guy's life, really, like, relaxing in his chairs, sort of chilling out stuff, enjoying his like valuables. But as things develop with Saul upstairs enjoying himself, the man actually like wakes up at one point, and we see him wake up, and the next it's cutbacks to Saul upstairs, so you don't actually know what's going on, where the guy is, and it turns out that he's gone to the toilet, and we get this great shot of Saul looking down from the thing, like just casually, and that's when it's revealed the guy has gone to the toilet, because he sees him like coming back out, so we sort of see it at the same time as he does. And because the guy is still, sort of drunk and very groggy and tired, he actually like sits down on the step. And this is quite a like realistic thing, like a lot of people do when you just wake up randomly in the middle of the night and you're quite groggy. He just starts looking at his phone, and this is obviously a bit of a bummer for like Saul, because he's blocking his way out of the house. So it's sort of Saul's hubris which almost does for him in this scene, and you question how far he's going to go to get himself out of a jam, because at one point it looks like he's going to hit this guy over the head with like quite a heavy weapon, and it might have been just to knock him out, but there's the implication at least that he might be willing to take the guy out completely, and in the end, like, the guy does sort of move type thing anyway, and like passes out again, I think. But so once again, it plays out very nicely with like lots of tension. We then get some humour inserted in, because like Jeffrey comes back in the cab as so inserted, and you sort of have like the comedy beat with those cops, and Jeffrey just sort of panicking, thinking that they're actually watching him, keeping an eye on him, and in reality, you cut to that funny scene with them talking about like the tuna stuff and having a debate over that. So that's a really funny little cut. But then Jeffrey like is still panicking because he thinks they're onto him, and in the end, he like runs into like a lamppost or a tree or something, just crashes his car, which makes him a sitting duck for these cops who can't believe their luck. But what I like about that moment is it's obviously a really funny beat, but it's also quite a sad and tragic beat, because it just sort of sums up Jeffrey's luck as well, and how really he's been like forced or persuaded back into this life by Saul, and how this is just his luck, where he's come back to try and help Saul, and it's like backfired, and Saul obviously waits a certain amount of time and then makes his escape. And Jeffrey calls him the next day from prison and pretends he's like calling his dad. And Saul, obviously going along with the cover, like assures him there's nothing to worry about because they don't have any sort of evidence to hold him, and that they can get him out on bail and they don't really have anything against him. And I think you believe sincerely than Saul like doesn't want him to get into any serious trouble, but at the same time he's like taking shortcuts where he doesn't really want to be the guy to help him out, because he says, yeah, we can afford to like bail you out, but it should be your mother who goes along in person. And like, because she, like later on he ensures like the mother, Carol Burnett, who's been like a great sort of guest star as well in the last, is it 2 or 3 episodes, something like that, but she's been another fantastic guest star on this show. But like Saul assures her then we can pay for the, or tries to talk her into it, but like, and then assures then Jeffrey will just pay him back, sort of thing. So he like says I can pay for it and Jeffrey can pay me back. But once again there's a certain amount of putting it on other people, like putting the blame and stuff on other people and not accepting his responsibility. Obviously he's to a certain extent looking out for himself, but the turn at the end of the episode is really quite something, because the mother, whose name I've sort of forgotten now, but she finds out about Saul, about him being a con man, where she's looked him up randomly online, like Albuquerque con man, and it's obviously quite believable he would come up. But it's another really smart subversion this show does, because when Saul first walks in and she's like on the computer, it makes you think she's just going to be looking at her cat videos as normal, but like there's a change in the mood of the scene and she confronts him with it and like opens the laptop and shows it. And at first he tries to talk his way out of it, but like she's on to him, and that's when the scene like takes a really dark turn and potentially like turns very tragic, where you just see the desperation of Saul and how he possibly isn't afraid to kill someone, even someone as vulnerable as this, to like get himself out of it. Like you really legitimately have that tension for a moment that he might kill this woman to like potentially stop her from calling the law. And it's a very intimidating scene, like the way he approaches her and like grabs the cord and then tries to like take the thing off her, the thing around her neck, which she's gonna like use to call the police. And in the end, I think he's just like putting the decision on her, where he's like trying to intimidate her out of it, but like in the end he doesn't go so far as to like physically do anything to like sort of stop it or to like harm her, but then he's just trying to intimidate her, and in the end she does do it. Like she calls the police and he runs out, and that's the end of the episode. It's such a great ending, such a like disturbing ending at times, a great reveal of her, finding out who he is, and like from her point of view just not willing to put up with this. Because another thing I noticed, which is a really nice sort of thematic link in the episode, is how certainly at first, because when she thinks then this is all Jeffrey's doing, and like Jean, as she knows him, has nothing to do with it. Like the mother just is once again talking really about how once again Jeffrey's let himself down, he's let his reputation down. So there's actually like this link to Jeffrey and to Howard, what happened with Saul, and Kim like running Howard's reputation through the mud, and the sort of results we've now seen with that storyline. There's almost a similar thing where, because of Saul's action, like Jeffrey's reputation, it could be in the gutter, even though he will obviously like likely get off sort of without too much of like consequences. But in any case, it's a very good ending, and it really sets up next week so perfectly. There's a lot of speculation now about, will Saul get away? Will he weasel out of this? Is he going to do a full-blown sort of on the run and another sort of life? Will there be another big Saul and Kim moment? You sort of think maybe there might be one more, although if like this is the last episode we see Kim in, then I think that's perfectly fine as well, because everything it did was so good, and it feels like a fitting way to like tie some of her stuff up, and maybe just have a little bit of ambiguity over like, will she eventually like take the fall for this, or is there enough of a case? It's sort of like a strong character beat, and she does what she feels is the right thing anyway. But yeah, you do sort of think, with her being such a big part of the show and Saul's life, then there could at least be one more scene with them in the finale. We might also get some more crossover stuff, like, another appearance for Walter sort of thing. So lots of possibilities, and a really great episode. I think this is one of the best episodes of this season, and it does such a great job of setting the table for the finale of the show in general, and what a great ride it's been, and it's only added to the Breaking Bad verse and to the other show with some of the stuff we've seen, especially this season. So that's my latest Better Call Saul review. Let me know your thoughts of this episode. Like and subscribe as always. Share me out on social media. You can also ding the bell on YouTube for more notifications when I go live or when I post a video. And I'll be back with more TV reviews soon, including the finale of Better Call Saul. So thanks for listening. Goodbye.